So we had some interesting or exciting news actually in the EUC world, haven't we? We've had the V13 announced, the Sherman suspension, which I'm super excited about. I've been waiting for that forever because I want a suspension wheel, but from what I've seen so far, there's nothing I really would want to put my money on yet. But I figured when Sherman releases a suspension wheel, that's going to be the one to buy. But we've got to wait and see still, don't we? The V13 looks like it's the closest thing to being actually ready. That looks super exciting, doesn't it? It's got roll bars, kind of. And I say kind of because I think they're plastic, but as long as they're made out of the right plastic, it should be fine. And I did say, plastic sucks in that video a while ago, but actually carbon fiber is 10 times stronger than steel. So there you go. We can have some pretty good plastics. And if they're in the right place and made out of the right stuff, they can be just as good as steel in terms of protecting the whole unit. It's also 128 volts, I believe, which is pretty cool too. It's got a free spin, and I'm talking about the V13 still right now. The V13 has a free spin speed of 140 something kilometers an hour, they say, which in theory is good, but it doesn't really give you the final picture. You could have something that spins up to 200 kilometers an hour, and then as soon as you stand on it, it can't even move you up to 2 kilometers an hour because it's all about torque. So that doesn't really say everything just because it's got a high free spin speed. It could, as long as it follows the same tendencies that we've seen to date, then it should mean it's got a very high top speed. And I've got to talk about something that Shank said about this wheel. I don't know if it's related to that high free spin speed, but he said that the V13 is going to be the most reliable wheel ever. It's like the next level of reliability. And if you ask me, it's way too early to say anything like that. I don't think you can just say this is going to be the next level of reliability when no one's even used it yet. Especially being in motion, they've had some of the biggest return rates in some shops out of any companies. So I think it's way too early to be saying that. It could be though, you never know. Like his reasoning was because they've learned from their past mistakes on the V12 where they used weak MOSFETs and now they're going overkill with it. So it could be, I hope it is, but I wouldn't be saying that yet, because what if it isn't? Then it's going to sound dumb. What else have we got? The Master Pro. And this is a funny one, guys, because actually I was going to get the Master. I was really keen on getting the Master. And then I didn't because it's just too weak. If you crash it, it's going to bust it to pieces. And the Master Pro is probably no different. Actually, it's a lot heavier, so it's probably even worse. And the Master Pro has 4,800 watt hours. Can you believe it? And what do I think of that? Well, let me tell you about my Sherman versus my Sherman Max. My OG is a 3,200 watt hour wheel. So it's got 3,200, right? The Sherman Max has 3,600. So it's only 400 more. And what do I think so far now? Like, what can I tell you about my desire for range or my need for big batteries? I don't need the Sherman Max, guys. It turns out I've only needed it on one occasion when I've had like a full day of Uber Eats, just non-stop delivery after delivery. And I got down to like 10% and I was thinking, damn, lucky I've got the Max because the OG would be dead by now. And I just managed to get home on that 10%. And that's the only day I've ever needed it. So it turns out that I don't really need it at all. Because if you need it one day a year, you just catch a taxi if you need to. And I didn't need to. I could have just clocked off a bit earlier. So I would have lost, $10 in a year. So it's kind of overkill. And then going up to 4,800 is just insane. And it weighs 150 pounds? The Sherman Max only weighs a tiny bit more than the OG, right? And what do you think I prefer? Because I've talked about weight being a good thing when it comes to the center of gravity. It lowers the center of gravity of the rider, of the rider plus machine, right? Of the system. Because you've got more weight down low. It's like wearing lead shoes. So it drops the center of gravity and it gives you more stability because of that. But the bad thing is that it gives you more inertia. So then it's harder to turn quickly. You lose nimbleness, obviously. You got a heavier machine. And between my OG Sherman and my Kingsong 16X, which is about It's like a 60-pound wheel. I don't know really. I don't know what it is in pounds or kilos, but it's lighter, and I much prefer the OG. And it wasn't like that from the beginning. The 16X was my first ever wheel, and when I first got my OG, I found it to be way too heavy. I was like, dude, this is like a boat. And I didn't use it for 2 whole weeks, and I only rode my 16X. Then I got a flat tire on the 16X. I was forced to ride the OG Sherman, and then within 2 weeks of doing that, it felt really good. All the weight seemed to disappear, and it just felt nimble. And I really liked it after that. Then when I finally fixed the flat tire on my 16X again, I didn't like it anymore. It felt like a piece of paper, like a plastic toy, super unstable compared to the Sherman, right? So then, based on that, you'd think, okay, so you like heavy wheels. So a bit more weight could even be a good thing, right? So then you get the Sherman Max, you got a bit more weight now. And it's only a tiny bit, right? It's only like 1 kilogram, I think. Maybe 2 kilos. And you know what? I can feel it now. At first, I couldn't. At first, I was like, yeah, these things seem to weigh the same. But now, I can feel the subtle difference. And you know what? I prefer the OG. The Max is just that little bit too heavy now. The OG seems to be perfect. It's heavy enough, so it doesn't feel like a toy, but it's not too heavy. And the Max seems to overstep that boundary just a little bit, where I can honestly say I prefer the OG. The only thing is the OG has a bent rim, my OG at least. So the wheel is wobbly, and that's why I prefer the Max right now. It's super smooth. It's just a smooth ride, whereas the OG, because of the wobbly rim, it just doesn't feel as good. But I bet you once I fix that rim, or once I replace it, I'm going to prefer my OG, and I'm going to ride it all the time. Right now, I still ride the Max more, just because of that rim. But let's go back to the Master Pro now. So what, you're going up now, how much in weight? You're going up like freaking 100 pounds now, just to get this insane number of 4,800 watt hours. Who's ever going to use that? That's just crazy. Do you know how much range you're going to get with that? Like I've said in the past, if you double your watt hours, for example, you just about triple your range, or even more, depending on the type of riding you're doing. And it's because of the shared load. Since the cells each work at a lower rate, you actually get more out of them. That's how they work. And 4,800 watt hours is going to be like 300 kilometers of range. No joke. You'll probably get... All right, let me actually work this out. On my Sherman Max, I can get about 140 doing like decent riding, you know, not trying to conserve battery or anything. And so on the going up to 4,800 watt hours, that's like... I would expect almost double. Not quite double. I would expect about 240 kilometers. So who needs 240 kilometers on an EUC? The thing is, if you asked me before, I would have said, yeah, maybe. But now I would say, don't even bother. You're just carrying all that extra weight for nothing. You're never going to use that battery. Unless your plan is to never charge the thing. You just charge it once a week or something. But what's the point of that? You're going to carry all that weight around just to save yourself plugging in a cable at night. Doesn't make sense. And maybe there's someone out there, a very small niche rider, that will appreciate having so much range. But I doubt it. Like, even Marty, he doesn't ride 240 kilometers. It's a gimmick. And it's a heavy one. You don't want that much weight. Imagine what that's gonna feel like. All that weight. If already the Max, well, to me at least, the Max feels worse than the OG just because it's got an extra 2 kilos. So imagine adding friggin' 20 or whatever. I don't know how much it weighs, but it's going to be heavy. It's going to be damn heavy with all that battery. And suspension. Oh, I mean, come on. Think about it. It's laughable, to be honest. I would never buy that wheel. So it's really between the V13 and the Sherman S. Is that what it's called? Sherman S? I think that's what it's called. The Sherman suspension. And... yeah, let's see how they turn out. I'll probably hold off a bit. I'll wait to hear some feedback first. Because it's suspension, you know. It's Sherman's first suspension wheel. They might get it wrong, you know. They couldn't even get the freaking wobbly tire thing right at first, remember? On the OG Sherman. Everyone got a wobbly tire straight out of the box. So, yeah, I'm going to hold off a bit and see how they go. I don't trust them that much. I'm not a Sherman fanboy at all, guys. Some people think I am for some reason. Sherman. Not at all. I point out the Sherman's flaws as much as I can. It's got such low pedals. It's a joke. It needs higher pedals. I don't know what they were thinking. They did elevate them. They did an upgrade. But they're still too low. They're still way too low, in fact. So, yeah, Sherman's got its issues too. But aside from those low pedals, to be honest, it's pretty damn perfect. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have suspension. But aside from that, it doesn't have speakers either. That would be nice. But yeah, let's end it here, guys. And let's look forward to a future of exciting new wheels coming out.